So I'm Fatima Chowdhury, Senior Corporate Counsel in the commercial team, and I'm based in the UK office.
My name is Jazz Lin. I'm the Director of Product Management in Security.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Calkin, and I've been at RingCentral for 7 years. I work out of our Belmont, California office, and I work in corporate communications. I specifically head up our analyst relations.
I think the pandemic has been a real challenge for women in the workplace, primarily because we've had to do it all. We've had to become child carers, we've had to be professionals, we've had to, manage the house, manage the pandemic, so to speak, in our homes, as well as managing our careers.
So pandemic is hard for women because in general, women does have a little bit more constraint compared to men. So we tend to share more responsibility at home for childcare and housework. And the study shows that 95% of Indian women and Chinese women who work full-time, they have to share more responsibility to take care of their aging parents.
What has the pandemic been like for women? And I think it's been a perfect storm of just added pressures. So when you kind of break it down, it is not only the responsibilities of what we handle in our day-to-day jobs, but it's also on the home front, both as child caretakers as well as, just taking care of domestic tasks at home. That hasn't alleviated. If anything, I think it's gone up over the pandemic. And just being at home more. I feel like I'm more in charge of things at home. So I would just say that the added pressures has definitely been the challenge for a lot of women during this time.
I've certainly learned how to be a little bit more tolerant, a little bit more patient, and thinking that everything revolves around running around, whereas the pandemic's kind of forced you to slow down a little bit. To take a step back and value what's important and remember that work is a part of that, but it's not the be all or the end all of anything. Well, for me, that's been a realization, I think.
Yeah, and I also feel a little bit closer to my coworker because we kind of see a little bit more of their life at home. And I actually personally receive a little more support from my colleagues and also, especially across women and the men.
So what can companies do to embrace this change taking place? I think there's a lot. Just the idea of leading with more trust, leading with more empathy is a good place to start. And I think that companies can't afford not to, because during this time of, some people call it the Great Resignation, where companies really do need to think about how they're going to retain, how are they going to recruit employees. And there's too little margin out there for companies to not lead with the idea of giving workers more trust, more flexibility. So I think it starts there. At a manager level, I would also say that, allow your team members, especially the women, to be heard and to be recognized. And I think it's all about treating your team members with respect. And I think it's really important because it's a key part of, why some employees might leave a company when they don't feel heard, when they don't feel respected. It's really important to lean in on helping our managers grow into better people managers as well. So that's something that companies can really support and drive more of during this time.
It's really necessary, whether you're new, whether you've been with the company for, a considerable amount of time. I think people need to interact and people need to feel welcome. For me, embracing change really with the pandemic, I think the pandemic's really been able to show us, whether it's women or whether it's the workforce in general, the kind of creativity side, I think, to an extent. We all come into the office, we sit down, we switch our laptops on, But you find when you're having these kind of online meetings, when you're meeting people face to face on the video, that you're talking about the dog in the background. You're talking about the fact that you've had to go in and get your COVID test, or you think something's happening, or you've had to go out for a bit of a walk. I know certainly during lockdown in the UK, it was awful. Everybody was just talking about lockdown. So to just talk about something else was, well, I went out for a walk today and I did 6K over, whatever, over a really steep hill. It was just something different.
I think there's another topic to add here around what companies can do and what they should embrace. And I think this idea of really being honest and transparent about initiatives that can help close the gender pay gap. I still think there's a lot of room for improvement in this particular area. I've seen progress. I know at RingCentral, they've been really leaning into this topic. There's still a lot more runway to go. And it's not just at RingCentral, it is across the board at so many companies where it's still an issue. There is still absolutely a big gap. And too often, I think women have to find their own voice and be bold and just, stand up for their pay to get the recognition at the level that they deserve or what's fair. So I personally still think there is something to say about companies embracing more of this type of change in closing the pay gap and equal pay. It is a big topic still.
Or I've personally benefited from having weekly meetings where we don't necessarily talk about work. We talk about, I don't know, what we did at the gym in the morning or something that's happening with the family. And it's an informal chat. We talk about work, but we make time for each other. And I think sometimes you forget that it's, in real life, in the real world, in the office, you would have that coffee break and you would be talking at the kitchen area, or when you grab your bottle of water, something that we're not doing anymore.
There's a really great example I want to call out. Ashima Bhatt on the PMM team, she had brought up the whole idea of gender pay and recognizing, International Women's Day last year. And she made it a conversation that wasn't just between our department in marketing. They gave her a platform to share the discussion overall across the entire company. So before you know it, she was speaking about, this message across the entire company. And I just thought, wow, you take someone who's got a great idea, give them a platform to share more and share beyond a small group. And that is just so amazing what can happen.
When opportunity present, just say yes. Because in the past, I had a tendency to walk through all the detail. I want to make sure I'm 100% sure I can deliver before I say yes. Then the mentor told me that the lesson is so valuable to me. She told me that she understands I'm still working on the detail or logistic detail. She told me that just say yes, and then you can always work out the detail later.
The whole hybrid or work from home is not going anywhere. I think it's here to stay. And I think a lot of companies are realizing that, but especially at RingCentral, we're a huge provider of bringing people together and connecting people over voice and video and messaging. And so we get the opportunity to really sort of eat our own dog food and live the best practice of working from anywhere. And so when we say that, we actually really mean it. And so I think the company has become, even more supportive and has been part of helping to normalize this whole idea of work from anywhere and isn't encouraging it. I would say some other ways that RingCentral has really kind of helped us during this time is just, to your point, what you had said earlier about kind of accepting your whole self at work, right? So kind of just allowing more of that work-life balance. Whether if you have kids that come into the background or the dog suddenly starts barking, or you have to just get up and go pick up the kids from school. It's just a normal thing.
From my perspective, it's slightly different in that I joined RingCentral during the pandemic. So I joined in August 2020, right at the heart of everything happening during the lockdown. And if I'm really honest, it's been difficult. You've not been able to go to the office. You've not been able to meet your colleagues. Everything's been done remotely, and it's really hard, But what RingCentral UK did was we had weekly meetings every Friday where the whole company, the UK team, were invited to come along and just spend half an hour just joking, laughing, learning about, what other departments are doing and sharing praise, all of that sort of thing. And as a newbie, that's been fantastic. International Women's Day, for me, made me realize there are people out there that are like me. And that's something quite special. The other thing is, I never really felt comfortable talking about being a female in the workplace or my roles at home. So, that sort of thing. And I can't believe we're on a platform tonight speaking in a way I thought we never would. When I started my career, you never had this kind of thing. So I feel really privileged that I've had an opportunity to be active in something like this. And I think it's all about the second generation now. We want to educate our boys and girls that are the future to not have these conversations in the same way that we are, but in a different way, how they're going to be equal. And it's not going to be about women or men, it's going to be about people.
Last year, I got invited to talk to a group of young college students about women in technology. It made me thinking about what does that mean as a woman in the field, as a woman leader. So I want to be more conscious to reach out to my junior colleague or younger students. They are ready to enter this field. I want to make them feel welcome. I want to tell them that lean in and be confident. And when opportunity shows up, grab it.
For me, I think this day is all about recognizing women, thinking about women's equality, but most of all, advocating for yourself, seeking the insights and seeking answers and information that can help you and help others.